Last year, I worked with a 3.2 million ARR B2B SaaS company that was stuck with broken revenue reports, broken data pipelines, and a data infrastructure that was hard to maintain. The CEO had to wait days before getting an insight that he could use for his decision making, which obviously make it very hard to grow and scale a company. So in this video, I'm going to show you the exact data infrastructure that I've built for this company, which helped them to regain control over the business and also help the C-level and the C-suite to get better data insights into the business. My name is Thomas, and over the past 3 years, I've helped over 20 B2B SaaS companies with their data challenges, so the C-level and the C-suite can make better decisions using data insights. So here's the trap that most B2B SaaS companies fall into. In the beginning, there's a need for data insights. So the CEO asks an engineer, like, can you pull up this data for me? Can you create a dashboard? Can you create a report that answers my question? So the engineer, he writes a very complicated and custom script to get the insights and then delivers the report or the dashboard to the CEO. But as the company grows, this script grows as well, and the custom infrastructure that this engineer has set up becomes too complex to maintain. And the engineer is also busy working on the product, so it's not his full-time job. There comes a certain moment where the engineer cannot maintain the data infrastructure anymore. And the CEO is left with outdated reports, and the business is stuck with a big complex script that only one engineer can maintain. So the company is lacking the insights they need to make good decisions. Well, this also happened to a previous client of mine who was stuck with a very messy and complicated data infrastructure that was based on a single script that the engineer has set up, and the engineer has also left the company. So that made it very hard to get the correct data insights. And this is actually a problem I see with a lot of SaaS companies. Engineer starts with working on the data and working on the insights, but over time it just becomes too complex, hard to maintain, and the business and the C-level is stuck with incorrect reports and outdated dashboards. In this video, I'm going to show you a system I set up for a 3.2 million ARR B2B SaaS company that can be maintained by a single person without too much custom code. First, a project always starts with the planning. So in this case, the company data was messy, hard to use after a data engineer has left. The whole data infrastructure relied on a single code script, resulting in large data processing times and made it very hard to make changes. The current dashboards were difficult to understand and therefore not being used, and the company was missing insights into the commercial activities, especially on the marketing, sales, and customer support side. So once we have identified the challenges, we can create a dashboard plan, which you can see here. And the dashboard plan always starts with the metrics dictionary. And a metrics dictionary describes each metric and what we mean by that metric. And it also includes some other information like the units, as you can see here, the dimension, like in what kind of dimensions do we want to visualize the data. This could be, for example, country or industries or other customer segments. We also include a calculation, we include some comments, and also the data source, right? So we start with the metrics dictionary so we can get everyone aligned on the metrics that we want to measure. Once we have defined the metrics and we have agreed on the definitions, we can create a timeline. So this is a rough overview. As you can see here, we've identified a couple of dashboards. So for finance, we had some dashboards from sales, for the onboarding, for product, and for customer care. And then also obviously the dates on when we plan to finish it. So transform the data, dashboard development, and then also some time for improvements. So usually this is what is needed before actually starting a data project. And this is also a mistake what I see a lot of data teams make. They immediately jump into development of the dashboards without aligning with the business first on what they need and also agree on a timeline. And if you don't do that, you set the wrong expectations, so the business doesn't know when things are going to get delivered. And also when you deliver things, there's a big chance that it's not what the business needs, and then you can start over again. So it's very important to plan it first and create a plan first before actually diving into development. Right, so once we have the plan, we can go into building the data stack. And this was the old data stack that they had. So let me describe the process first. So we have some sources here. So these are the data sources. It can, for example, be HubSpot, Cloud SQL, PostgreSQL, Stripe, whatever data source you have in the business. You get the data from the source systems, you store it in a database, then you transform the data, in this case in Airflow or a different tool, and then you visualize the data in a dashboarding tool. This is usually the standard data pipeline process of extracting data, transforming it, and then loading it into a data dashboarding tool. So this is what they currently had set up. So the data was coming from Cloud SQL. The previous engineer, he built a Python script, which is a programming language, to extract the data from the data sources. Then he stored the data into Postgres SQL, which is a database. And then he wrote custom Python scripts into Airflow to transform the data and get the correct insights. Then he loaded the data into Metabase, which is a dashboarding tool, to visualize the data and build charts. So how did it look like? It was basically a very big script of all kinds of custom functions and code. It was just basically like one big script to manage everything. And the problem with this is if you want to make changes, it's very hard to find where you need to make the changes, but also to make sure you don't break anything else. In my opinion, this is a no-go. You don't want to do all your data transformations and all your data manipulations inside a single big script. It's very hard to maintain, very hard to make changes. And if something breaks, everything breaks, basically. So the problems. The current data stack took precious time from in-house software engineers. In our setups, for example, we use a lot of no-code tools as well, so non-technical people can work with the data. The script also led to a lack of insights. It was not covering everything that the business needed, and it was extremely inefficient. Every small change took almost an hour to process, making error solving and adding new features very difficult. So here's what I did. I rewrote the big script into modular code. I introduced BigQuery so developers didn't have to maintain the database. I implemented Dataform and removed Airflow to reduce the need for developers as well. I used Fivetran and Dataflow for data extraction, and introduced Looker Studio as a main dashboarding tool. And the reason I chose for Looker Studio is because it's very well integrated in the Google Cloud Platform, which makes sharing dashboards and insights very easy inside the business. I also have a lot of templates for quick setup, and also the pricing is very, very good for a dashboarding tool. Like you pay €0 for dashboard viewers, and you only pay for editors, which is €9 per month. So it's not expensive. So how does the new data stack look like? Let's start with the sources first. So they had data in HubSpot, Google Sheets, Aircall, and a Cloud SQL database, which is their product database. We need to get the data from these sources for building the dashboards. So I used Fivetran to extract the data from these sources. And the reason I chose Fivetran is because it has a free tier of 500,000 active rows. We only use 60% of that per month, which means we paid €0 per month for Fivetran to extract the data from these sources. Then we use Google Dataflow to extract data from the Google Cloud SQL database. And the Cloud SQL database was already hosted inside the Google Cloud Platform, and that's the reason we could use Google Dataflow, because it was neatly integrated in the environment that they already had. Once we pull the data from the source systems, we need to store it somewhere. And that's where we use BigQuery. BigQuery is a data warehouse from Google, which in my opinion is one of the best data warehousing tools in the market. They have a very generous free tier, so you don't pay a lot of money. And the setup is also very easy. It's not too complex. You don't have to do a lot of initializations and settings that you need to set up. So in my opinion, it's a very good tool to use to store your data. So once we extract the data, we put it into a raw layer, which is basically all the data in its raw format untouched. Then we put the data into a staging layer, where you pick specific parts of the data and store it in a separate data set. We don't need all the raw data. We can just work with the data that we need for the insights that we want. Then we transform the data into the star schema format, which is a data modeling technique. And this makes it very easy to scale the changing needs of data inside the business. And at the end, we have the marts. And the marts are very specific data sets that we're going to use for analysis and very specific dashboards. And the reason we have that is because we don't want all data in the dashboards, which makes the dashboards very slow. We create separate data sets for the specific dashboards for the analysis and insights that we want. And also a benefit of this is we do all the calculations of the metrics and all the transformations inside the data warehouse, which makes it very easy for us to manage everything at scale as well. So usually the dashboarding tools such as Looker Studio or Power BI or Metabase, they offer data transformation options inside the tool as well. So you can calculate metrics inside the dashboarding tool too. I don't recommend doing that because then you have a split in how you calculate and how you transform your data. So you do some transformations in your data warehouse and also some transformation in your dashboarding tool. If there's an error or things are incorrect, it takes a lot of time to find out where the error is coming from. So I recommend, and that's also what we do, to do all the transformations and all the calculation inside the data warehouse. So we know exactly where to look if certain errors and certain problems show up in the dashboards. And this is how it looks like in BigQuery. So we have the dataset, Cloud SQL, Dataflow, Exact Online, Google Sheets, HubSpot, and basically all the raw data in here. Then we have the star schema here. So we have the dimension tables, the fact tables, and then we have the marts that we then use for the dashboarding. Right. So once we have the marts and we have all the data sets calculated and prepared, we load them into the dashboards. Now at the top, there's also some important things to mention. Ideally, you split your data transformations up in separate blocks of code, and you then create dependencies between those blocks. That looks like this. And at a first glance, this looks very complex, but it's very logical, and it's actually the best way to handle data. So how it works is basically we have some data here, we do some transformations here, then we use that data set into some other transformations, and then some other transformation. In the end, we get the data set and the calculations we want for the specific dashboards and analysis. And this overview is very helpful because it's very easy to spot where problems are occurring, if they are occurring. But also it has the big benefit of giving you a overview of all the transformations. So it's very easy to manage all the data sets and all the data pipelines and all the data flows of your company. So to build something like this, we use Dataform, which is integrated into the Google Cloud Platform. So, also my recommendation, if you work with BigQuery, use Dataform. It's already integrated, very easy to set up, and very easy to make changes to your data. We also set up a connection with Slack. So data pipeline errors are automatically sent to Slack. This helps to fix problems quickly. So if a data pipeline breaks for whatever reason, like maybe the source system breaks or maybe, some errors slip in, we can send notifications to Slack like, hey, the data pipeline broke, take a look. So this is very helpful to stay on top of things. And also this helps us to make sure that the dashboards are still accurate and that the leadership teams have accurate data to work with. If you don't build these things, there's a chance your dashboard will show up incorrect data over time. And if you don't know about that and the leadership team doesn't know about that either, then you make decisions on incorrect data. So this is a must. We do this in every project, me and my team. So big recommendation. Once we had the data stack set up, I created dashboards. And in this case, I created 15 dashboards for this company for revenue insights, acquisition, finance, product, onboarding, support, cost monitoring, and dashboard usage. So let's start with the revenue dashboards first. I called this the revenue cockpit. So we have the current AR, the total added AR, total lost AR, net new AR, and then net monthly growth rate. They have the annual revenue over time. Then we have the AR movements, so contractions, churns, new business, expansion. This business worked with a lot of partners. So in this case, we made a split in contractions and expansions because there was an extra layer of selling involved. Basically, this allows us to get better insights into where the contractions and the expansions were coming from. Then at the bottom, we have the overview per country. So we had a country overview, like how much revenue are generating from each country that we're active in, current AR, net new AR, added AR, lost AR, net monthly growth rate, and also per subscription type. So they saw different types of subscriptions. This allowed us to get better insights into where the revenue was coming from and also how the revenue was changing per subscription type. how I usually build these things is if you click on the country itself, it opens up a new report which shows for that specific segment, in this case country, all the important information. So you get a similar report, but then for that specific segment. So we can drill down into more details. In this case, it had the current AR, added AR, lost AR, added AR percentage, lost AR percentage, and the recurring revenue, net new AR, the lost in percentages, the AR movements for that specific segment, the lost MR percentage per subscription type as well for that specific segment. So there's a lot more data in here that the business people can use to make decisions. And at the bottom, we have a table with the customers that were driving the changes in the dashboards. So in this case, we see September, we see this customer, the organization the customer belongs to, the account manager, the country, subscription type, the revenue stream, the AR change, and then the expansion type. So in this case, expansion upsell. Then if you click on the customer here, it opens up a new dashboard for that specific customer. So you can see here all the information for that customer. So the current AR, how much revenue we have collected from this customer, the subscription type, the organization name, the account manager, the lifetime in months, revenue stream, customer since date, the country, and also a link to the admin view in the product database. Right, then we have annual recurring revenue, and then we also have the revenue movement. So how did this customer progress over time? And how much did the revenue from this customer change over time? So having a structure like this allows us to go from a top-level metric, such as annual recurring revenue, all the way down to the specific customer that is driving this change. And this is very helpful because then you get a very clear understanding on where your revenue is coming from and how your revenue is changing. Right. So then we go to the acquisition dashboards. Then we have the marketing and sales dashboard first, so the new business overview. So how much MQLs are we generating? How much SQLs? How much opportunities? How much proposals? How much contracts have been sent? How much closed won? How much closed won in euros? How much average closed won in euros? What was the win percentage? Then we have the average closed won over time as well, compared to the previous year. Then the total closed won compared to the previous year. And the closed won versus closed lost per month. Then we have the pipeline development, so how many deals are we generating each month? In this case in euros, but then at the bottom here, we also have it in deals, so amount of deals. Then also per stage, of course. So how you should read this dashboard is, in April, how many MQLs do we generate? How much SQLs? How much opportunities were created? How many proposals were sent out? And also how many contracts were sent. So this gives us an understanding of, like, are we actually generating more pipeline for the marketing sales teams? And then at the bottom, we have the overview of all the specific deals. So you have the deal name, you have a link to HubSpot, which was their CRM, and then also the dates on when they moved stages. So the MQL, SQL date, opportunity date, proposal date, contract sent date, closed won, closed lost, deal value, and weighted deal value. Right, then we have here a funnel analytics dashboard. So for a defined period, in this case 2 years, we can see how much MQLs we have generated, how much SQLs, sales qualified leads, how much opportunities, how many proposals, how much contracts have been sent, how many closed won in euros, and then also the throughput of each of those based on a selected dimension. So in this case, we could see per country how many SQLs we generated, how many SQLs, how many opportunities, proposals, contract sent, closed won, average closed won. So this allows us to segment into the data and get a better understanding of where countries are, for example, overperforming or underperforming. We also put some attribution in here, like where the deals coming from, where were the leads coming from, and also a split per product. So what product did they bought? So I also experimented with a signals dashboard. But basically, this is a dashboard that shows us how many companies have visited the website, how many events have happened on the website, how many sessions were created on the website, how many conversions there were, if the companies on the website were ICP or non-ICP, the sources from the leads that were coming on the website per week, and also an overview of all the companies that have visited the website and what they did on the website. You could also drill down into the specific company and get an overview of what they exactly did. Right, then we have the finance dashboard here. So finance in this case, they track the targets. So we have the AR number here, the net new AR, new business, expansions, contractions, and also the churn numbers, and also with targets. So every month we could clearly see like, are we on target or not? And then here also a overview of the targets for annual recurring revenue compared to the current values. So over time we can see like, are we actually reaching our targets or not? Same for net new annual recurring revenue. And then also I included here an overview of the onboarding revenue. So how much revenue can we still expect based on the customers that are currently in the onboarding phase? Right. And also a product dashboard. This basically shows like how many features were being used by customers. So I hit all the detailed information for the specific product, of course. But yeah, at the top we can see certain numbers and metrics about usage, NPS scores, for example, how many features are being used, like all kinds of data that the product teams and also the leadership teams helps to understand, like, is this product actually being used? Are we actually delivering value to our customers? Then also there's an onboarding dashboard. So it was important for the onboarding teams to be responsible for onboarding. How many new clients are currently in onboarding? How many clients are currently in the stage of system setups, stage of rollouts, and stage in active usage? Then also a value of how much revenue is still in the onboarding phase. Then we have the pipeline development here as well, like how many customers are currently per stage in the onboarding funnel, and also in euros, onboarding time in weeks. So how long does it take to onboard a customer? Then we had a split in country here, so customers in onboarding, onboarding done. And then, yeah, customer onboarding overview. So how many deals are currently still in the onboarding phase? And what is the value of those? How long is it taking? Then we have some support overviews here. How many tickets are currently in support? High priority tickets, medium priority tickets, other open tickets, closed tickets, one-step resolutions. So how many times are we able to close a ticket in one step? So with one interaction. We have the average resolution time here. How long does it take for us to close a ticket? We have the amount of open tickets, the satisfaction rating per owner, and then tickets overview. And then also for customer support, or in this case, customer care, how many calls are we doing? Inbound, outbound, what are the busiest hours? What is the top reasons for missed calls, top call times, calls overview, basically all the information you need to understand, like, are we doing a good job regarding customer support? Then also a dashboard here to monitor infrastructure costs. In my opinion, not very important for leadership teams, but very interesting for engineering teams or data people to understand how many data are we processing each month, and what is the cost of that. Then I also built this dashboard, which basically shows how much are the dashboards actually being used inside the company. And this is very helpful because the main goal of a dashboard is for it to be used, that people look at it and actually use it for decision making. So this dashboard shows if the dashboards are actually being used, and also how many users are using it. What is the average session duration? What is the user engagement? And what is the engagement rate? So this gives us, the data people, a lot of information on if the dashboards are being used, and if we should maybe make certain dashboards better, or maybe talk with the business to understand why they're not using certain dashboards, and then also make improvements over time, of course. So yeah, these are pretty much all the dashboards I've built. And now we go to the results part. No more need for unmanageable self-hosted tools. Developers not needed for data work anymore. A setup that's easy to use and can scale. Now, making changes to the data only takes 30 seconds instead of 45 minutes. A newly hired data engineer could easily use the tools and frameworks I set up, which greatly improved onboarding time for him. They now have a data warehouse that makes data management easy and scalable. I developed new dashboards that show important information about the business that can be used for daily decision making. And also a lot of time saved to fully automated data pipelines, so no more manual data processing. All right, I hope this was helpful for you. If you have messy data and you're looking for some extra help, you can visit our website in the description. I will just take a look at your infrastructure. I will answer some of your questions and guide you to the right direction. Thanks for watching, and maybe we'll speak soon. Bye-bye.